Have you ever stopped to think about what's really holding our digital world together? It's more than just servers and code. Behind the scenes of nearly every important transaction, every new company, every property deed, there's this hidden legal architecture, and it's called the electronic register. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this digital foundation of our modern legal system.
And just so you know, our entire discussion today is grounded in the scholarly work of Professor Vihar Kiskanov, which gives us a really solid framework to build on.
So how are we going to tackle this? Well, we've broken it down into 4 main parts. I want you to think of it like we're building a digital courthouse from scratch. First, we'll lay down the basic foundation. Then we'll look at the actual blueprints. After that, we'll open the doors to the public. And finally, we'll take a look at the new wing that's still under construction.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1. What exactly are we talking about when we say electronic registers? Getting this core concept right is essential because everything else we discuss today is going to build right on top of it.
So here's the formal textbook definition. An electronic register is a legally regulated system that exists in what you could call our virtual legal reality. Its whole job is to officially record, store, and certify facts that actually matter in the eyes of the law. You know, things like who owns a piece of land or the exact moment a company legally came into existence. Now that definition seems pretty clear, right? But it brings up a really important question. Is every digital list you come across a register in the same way? I mean, is your phone's contact list the same as the official National Business Register? The law and all the tech behind it say absolutely not, and that difference is crucial. And this is where we need to get a little more specific. A general electronic register is kind of like a library's main catalog. It's a structured list of everything that exists right now. But an electronic ledger is something different. That's more like the detailed loan history for one specific book, a chronological, tamper-proof, and basically unchangeable record of every single transaction. So the key takeaway is this: all ledgers are registers, but not all registers are ledgers. And why do we care about this distinction? Well, it has huge legal consequences. The EU's new eIDAS 2.0 regulation, that's the big one for electronic ID and trust services, now gives a qualified electronic ledger a legal presumption of integrity. What that means in plain English is that the law automatically assumes its chronological record is correct. This is a game changer. It creates a regulatory safe harbor for technologies like blockchain, officially recognizing just how reliable they can be inside the legal system.
So what do these registers actually do for us? Well, they perform 5 main jobs. They register facts, like when a company is created. They certify your legal status, proving you own your home. They notify people, confirming whether a property has a lien on it, for example. They provide data that's used for other legal processes, like calculating taxes. And more, they're the place where we store our legally binding declarations, like digitally signed contracts. Okay, now that we have the foundation in place, let's move on to part 2. It's time to look at the architectural blueprint, the rules and the design principles that really shape every single electronic register.
And believe me, registers come in all shapes and sizes. You've got registers for people and companies, like the commercial register. You have registers for the laws themselves, like the EU's huge Eur-Lex database. There are registers for property, and even registers for private documents that are managed by e-signature companies. They are literally part of our legal infrastructure.
But here's the thing. All these different types of registers are built on the same fundamental principles. Legality, which means they have to be authorized by a law. Security, to protect all that important data. Data minimization, which means they only collect what's absolutely necessary. And purpose limitation, making sure that data is only used for its original intended reason.
Now, this slide shows just how powerful these registers can be. Depending on the country's legal system, the effect of a registration could be dramatically different. In Germany, for example, the very act of entering your name in the property register is what creates your ownership right. The entry literally is the reality. But then you look at France and Italy. There, the entry just declares a right that already exists, making it official so you can enforce it against everyone else. It's a subtle but really profound difference.
All right, our digital courthouse has its blueprints. So for part 3, let's talk about opening the doors. Who gets to see what's inside? How can they use that information? And what safeguards do we have in place to protect it?
This brings us to a very practical question. If these systems hold the official facts of our society, who's actually allowed to take a look?
The guiding rule here is the principle of publicity. For most of the really important registers, like the one for businesses, access is open to everyone. It's all about transparency and legal certainty. Now, there are layers of access, of course.
Basic data might be public, but to see full case files, you might need to register. And government officials get special access. This idea is even going cross-border, with systems like the EU's BRS, which is connecting all the national business registers together.
But, complete openness has a dark side. After Germany made its commercial register free to access in 2022, it was hit by a huge surge in web scrapers. These are automated bots that just systematically copied sensitive personal data, like people's home addresses. This is exactly why we now see technical speed bumps like CAPTCHAs to try and balance that need for transparency with protection against abuse.
And this leads us to a major headache in modern data law. On one hand, you have a mutable ledger technology that's designed to be permanent. On the other, you have the EU's GDPR, which gives people a right to be forgotten. So, how can you erase data that is, by its very nature, unerasable? Right now, the common solution is to keep personal data off-chain, with only an anonymous, encrypted link stored on the ledger itself.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 4, Procedures and the Future. Let's look at the day-to-day mechanics of how these systems work, and then turn our eyes toward what's next for our digital courthouse.
The process for getting information into a register follows a pretty clear path. It all starts with an application. Then there's a crucial identity verification step, and this is pretty cool. It's often done now using sophisticated real-time video identification. After that, an official reviews the application to make sure it's legally compliant before finally making the official entry or sometimes rejecting it. And of course, any refusal can be appealed through the courts.
Now, as these digital systems become more and more vital and more connected across borders, the need to standardize them is growing. To solve this, there's a serious proposal on the table for a unified general regulation for electronic registers that would apply across the entire EU, basically creating a single, harmonized rulebook for everyone.
This proposed regulation is built on key principles you'd expect, like security and transparency. But it also introduces some really forward-looking ideas. Technological neutrality is a big one. It makes sure the law stays relevant even as technology changes. And maybe most importantly, it sets down strict rules for using artificial intelligence, including an outright ban on black box algorithms, where the logic behind a decision is hidden for any process that has legal consequences.
So in the end, electronic registers are so much more than just databases. They are the official, living record of our rights, our property, and our legal existence in the modern world. In a society that's increasingly built on data, designing these systems to be fair, secure, and transparent isn't just some technical challenge for coders to figure out. It's truly a fundamental question of justice for all of us.